What's up guys, and welcome back to another challenge video. Now this challenge was suggested by a commenter on my last video. In the comment he asked if I could beat Pokemon Emerald, Sapphire or Ruby with a Cacnea or a Trapinch. I chose Trapinch because it has lower base stats. Now the problem with Trapinch's stats is that it has a really low speed, so almost any Pokemon in the game will outspeed me. Also, Trapinch has not the greatest defenses, which means that if a Pokemon outspeeds me and hits me pretty hard, it will usually take me out. But before we get into the challenge, we have to break down the rules. Rule number 1. I can only use Trapinch to do damage in battle. Rule number 2. No items will be allowed during battle except for held items. And for a new rule, Trapinch will only be allowed to use moves learnt by level up, no TMs or HMs. Rule number 4. No glitches or exploits will be allowed to be used during the challenge. And obviously I'm allowed HM slaves. And without further ado, let's get into the challenge. Once again I name myself dead because I'm dead inside. I named the Trapinch Snyder after the person who left the comment to do the challenge. Now with that out of the way, it's time for our first battle against our rival, May. Now this battle against May goes pretty easily. I beat her with only 3 bites. Now this happens a lot during the early stages of this run because Trapinch has such a hulking attack stat. Don't worry though, this challenge gets a lot harder later on. After easily defeating May, I go and visit my father who makes me go and catch a Pokemon with Wally. So me and Wally head to Route 102 to catch his first Pokemon. And instead of running into like a shitty Pokemon like Poochyena or Lowtoad, he runs into a 4% encounter rate Rolls. After trying to act like I'm not salty because Wally's the luckiest guy in the world, he eventually catches it. After helping Wally catch his first Pokemon, I head to Petalburg Woods. In Petalburg Woods I have my first run-in with Team Aqua. Now this battle against this Team Aqua grunt goes pretty easily. He just spams Tackle and Sand Attack, and I spam Bite, eventually taking it out. To be honest with you, like my other runs, I will probably skip most of the Team Aqua, Team Magma stuff because it fills up a lot of the gameplay. Shortly after leaving Petalburg Woods, I arrive in Rustboro City, which means it's time to head to the first gym. The first gym leader is Roxanne, the Rock-type gym leader. To start off, Roxanne sends out Geodude, which I easily take out in 2 bites. Her second Geodude goes down in 2 bites as well. The last Pokemon Roxanne has is Nosepass. Now the battle against Nosepass doesn't go very well because it uses Harden and my bite doesn't do that much damage, and it uses potions to heal up. So unfortunately I lose my first battle against Roxanne. I start off the battle against her Nosepass second time around by using Sand Attack to lower its accuracy, and I get lucky enough with misses that I managed to take out her Nosepass, beating Roxanne. After beating Roxanne, I have another run-in with Team Aqua. This Team Aqua grunt has 1 Pokemon, which is a Poochyena, so I decided to skip this battle. Sue me. And with that battle out of the way, it's time for an actually important battle against my rival, May. To start off the battle, May sends out her Torkoal, which is a very tanky Pokemon. Her Torkoal just spams Curse the entire time and then Ember once, and I take it out with 4 bites. Next up is the scourge of my existence, Mudkip. And unfortunately Mudkip took me out with Bide, so it means I have to try again. Next time around I get up to her Mudkip again, but this time I'm on full health and I get luckier. She doesn't use Bide, she uses Water Gun, and I take her out with only 2 bites. And with that I've defeated May for the second time. After defeating May, we head back down to Petalburg City so we can talk to the old man and set sail to Dooford. Well guys, now that we've set sail, I think this is the perfect time to remind you guys, if you're enjoying the video, please leave a like on it to let me know that you guys like this kind of content. And also, subscribe, it would mean a lot to me because I'm trying to hit 100 subscribers before Christmas. Also guys, if you have any ideas for challenge videos that I can do in the future, please leave them in the comment section below because I appreciate them and I'm dumb and can't think of my own ideas. Thank you. Instantly after arriving in Dooford, I decide to battle the second gym. This was a big mistake, as you'll soon see. Now this battle with my Chop goes really badly. Pretty much I do no damage to it and it's doing 1/4 of my health every shot. So unfortunately I lose this first run against this gym. Now to save time I want to skip all the way to the run where I actually beat this gym. Now to beat this gym I had to get all the way to level 33, the main reason being at level 33 my Trapinch learns Crunch, and Crunch is really useful because it does a lot more damage than Bite. And with Crunch at my disposal I one-shot his Machop, one-shot his Meditite, and 2-shot his Makuhita. And with that battle out of the way we have defeated the leader Brawly. To be honest with you, this battle kind of reminded me of the second gym in my last run. If you guys haven't seen that, it was a Happini only run with Hard Gold, Soul Silver. Link for that would be in the description. Go check it out if you haven't seen it already. And finally we received the Knuckle Badge from Brawly. Man, someone really didn't overthink that name, did they? Shortly after defeating Brawly, I delivered the letter to Steven. Which means you know what time it is. It's time for us to set sail once again. This time we're going to Slayport. But before we get to Slayport, it's time for another shameless plug. Now I was thinking, what could I plug here? I've already told you guys to like the video and subscribe. So I thought, you know what? You guys can go follow me on Instagram. Link in the description. Briefly after arriving in Slayport, it's time for another encounter with May. Start off, she sends out Lombre, which isn't much of an issue. I take it out in 2 crunches. But next up is a big problem, Marstomp. Now unfortunately I get really unlucky here because Marstomp still knows Bide, and it gets me with it, taking me out in 2 shots, ending the battle. Fortunately, next time around, I started off with Sand Attack to lure its accuracy, and then I went in with my crunches, and it still used Bide, but this time it missed, so I took out Marstomp pretty easily. Last up, May sends out her Slugma, which I take out pretty easily with 1 crunch. And with that, we have defeated May once again. Outside the next gym, we run into Wally, and he challenges us to a Pokemon battle. Now the battle with Wally I can only describe as borderline child abuse, so I refuse to show it on camera. The following clip is a live reenactment of what actually happened during the battle. If you are squeamish, please look away now. After completely destroying Wally, it's time for our 3rd gym battle against Watson, the electric gym leader. Now to be honest, going into this battle I was pretty confident considering I'm a ground type and I'm super effective against electric types, but it didn't go that way at all, as you'll see. Now the problem here isn't attack power or anything, it's that I only know Sand Tomb, which has 70% accuracy, and I just got really unlucky with misses. Unfortunately that means I have to retry this gym. This time around I got up to Mantrike again, but this time I got a lot luckier with not missing, so I managed to take out Mantrike with a few Sand Tombs. Now you'll probably notice a pattern that I lose against gyms at my first run most of the time. That's mostly because Trapinch has such terrible moves and terrible accuracy that it takes a lot of luck to win battles. For instance, Sand Tomb has a 70% accuracy, which means I miss a lot. A short while after beating the 3rd gym, Trapinch learns his best move, Dig. The reason that Dig is better than Sand Tomb, even though Sand Tomb does more damage, is that it has 100% accuracy, which means it'll hit every time. The only downside is that it's a 2-turn move. Briefly after learning Dig, it's time for my first battle against Magma Leader Maxi. To be honest with you, going into this battle I wasn't that confident that I'd win on my first attempt. To start off, Maxi sent out his Mightyena, which was pretty easy to defeat. I took it out in 2 digs. Next up, Maxi sent out his Zubat, which used Supersonic to confuse me, but luckily I broke through the confusion and took it out with Crunch in 1 shot. Next up, Maxi sent out his illegal Camerupt. You're probably wondering, why is it illegal? I don't know if you know this, but Numble doesn't evolve until level 33, so I don't know how he has a level 25 Camerupt. The fact that Maxi's cheating doesn't really faze me considering I 1-shot it with Dig. And that, my friends, is why you should never cheat, because cheaters never prosper. Shortly after defeating Maxi, it's time for the gym battle against Flannelly, the Fire-type gym leader. After 1-shotting her Numble with Dig, I was really confident that I would win this battle first try. I also 1-shot her Camerupt, which was really surprising. But unfortunately, I forgot about her Torkoal. Now unfortunately, my Dig didn't 1-shot Torkoal, it just survived on a little bit of health and it took me out with Overheat. I guess it's time for a retry. Fortunately, next time around I got the Torkoal again with full health, but this time around the battle went way more in my favour. My first Dig almost 1-shot Torkoal. Unfortunately, Flannelly healed her Torkoal with a Hyper Potion, but fortunately for me, my next Dig hit a critical, taking it out in 1 shot, winning me the battle. After defeating Flannelly, it means it's time for us to get serious. Next up, the 5th gym leader, our father, Norman. First up, Norman sends out his Spinder, which I'm not that scared of considering it's a pretty weak Pokemon. Long story short, I 1-shot his Spinder and almost 1-shot his Vigoroth. Is it Vigoroth or Vigoroth? I guess you guys will correct me in the comments. After taking out his Vigoroth, he sends out his Linoone. I end up 2-shotting his Linoone, but up next is his most powerful Pokemon, Slacking, which I am very scared of. At this point, my Trapinch is too weak to do anything and his Facade takes me out in 1 shot. I guess it's time to level up again. I decided once again to just skip to the attempt where I beat it. This took me about 7 or 8 hours of grinding and re-attempting this gym to eventually beat it, and here's the run where I beat it. Now because I'm 7 levels higher, I pretty much 1-shot every one of his Pokemon and made it all the way to Slacking on full health, which was super fortunate. I pretty much took Slacking out with 1 crunch and 2 digs, even though he did try to put me to sleep with Hoenn. That means another gym out of the way. After defeating Norman, it's time for another rival battle with May. First up, May sends out her Lombre, which I 2-shot easily with crunch. Next up, May sends out Slugma, which I obviously easily 1-shot with dig because it's super effective. Last but not least, May sends out her Marstomp, and this kind of scared me, so I decided to use Hyper Beam, and obviously Hyper Beam 1-shot it, winning me the battle against May. After defeating May, I meet Steven for the first time, and he gives me the Devon Scope, which allows me to see Pokemon that are invisible / camouflage. Shortly after speaking with Steven, it's time for the next gym battle against Winona, the flying type gym leader. To start off the battle, Winona sends out her Swablu, which I easily take out in 2 crunches. I also take out her Tropius in 2 shots. Next up, Winona sent out her Pelipper, which was slightly annoying because it confused me, but I luckily got through it and hit it once with Crunch with a critical hit, taking it out. Next up, Winona sent out her Skarmory, which is a Pokemon on her team I was most scared of. Because I was scared of it, I decided to just use Hyper Beam, and it took 2 Hyper Beams to take it out. Lastly, Winona sent out her Altaria. Unfortunately, on the first move against Altaria, I had to recharge because I had just used Hyper Beam, but on the next turn, I used Hyper Beam again and took her out in 1 shot. And with that, we have defeated the 6th gym. Shortly after defeating the 6th gym leader, I clear Mount Pi of all the Team Aqua Scum and receive the Team Magma emblem. Shortly after wiping the floor with all those Team Aqua grunts, it's time for another rival battle with May. To start off, she sends out her Tropius, which I 1-shot with Hyper Beam. Next up, May sends out her Ludicolo, which I also luckily 1-shot with Hyper Beam. Next up, she sends out her Slugma, which I use Dig on and 1-shot obviously. Last up is her Marstomp. You know the deal here. I use Hyper Beam to take it out in 1-shot so it doesn't kill me with Water Gun or some shit. And with that, we have defeated May in another rival battle. After he awakens Groudon, it's time for us to have another match with Magma Leader Maxi. First up, Maxi sends out Mightyena, which I take out in 1 crunch and 1 dig. Next up, Maxi sends out his Crobat, which I take out in 1 Hyper Beam. Last but not least, Maxi sends out his Camerupt, which is his strongest Pokemon. I easily take out Camerupt with only 1 dig, because it's super effective. To be honest with you, these battles with Team Magma and Aqua are so easy at this point that I'm probably going to skip a few of them until I get to like really important fights later on. Sorry, this is taking up too much of the video's time. After easily defeating Lord Maxi, it's time for an important gym battle, the 7th gym. Now I'm not going to beat around the bush here, this is the hardest gym battle of this entire run, because it's a 1 Pokemon only challenge, and this is a duo gym. So I'm going to be honest here, I lose my first attempt. No question. After trying the gym for about an hour at level 64, I decided it's time to grind up to level 70. After about a dozen attempts at level 70, I managed to take out 1 Pokemon, which is Claydol, but then, unfortunately, I still lose. Guess time to grind again. Now the reason this battle is so overwhelmingly difficult for Trapinch is because I'm just not doing enough damage, and I can't take any damage. So yeah, it's a struggle. So after about a half an hour of attempting his gym at level 75, my best run, I was able to take out both Zarchu and Claydol. Next up they sent out Solrock, which I was kind of scared about, but somehow out of the most amazing luck, I 1-shot it with Crunch. Now it's just down to the last Pokemon, Lunatone. Now I hit Lunatone twice with Crunch, and for a second there I actually thought I'd taken it out, but it survived on literally 1 health, and then it healed and took me out. I was so upset. Now I tried this battle at level 75 for another hour or 2, before I gave up, and I was so upset that I got off, and then I got back on the next day, grinded up all the way to level 85, and retried this gym again. Now if you're wondering why I'm not showing this entire battle, it's because I completely smashed this gym at level 85. I pretty much 1-shot every single one of their Pokemon, and I don't even care. If I'm being honest, I do regret grinding all the way up to 85. I think I definitely could have beaten it at level 75. I just didn't want to fucking keep trying, and it would have been taking another week or so to release this bloody video. So here we are. After defeating the 7th gym, it's time for us to team up with Steven to beat Magma Leader Maxi. To start off the battle, Maxi sent out a Camerupt and the Grunt sent out a Mightyena. The Camerupt was taken out by Steven's Metang with 2 Psychics, and I took out 1 Mightyena with my Dig. Next up they have another Mightyena and a Golbat. Now the Golbat almost took out my Trapinch, but luckily it didn't attack me again after knocking me down to red health. And then Metang managed to take out their Golbat. I also managed to take out the other Mightyena with a Dig. Next up, Maxi sent out his Crobat, which me and Steven managed to take out in a few hits. Last but not least, Maxie sent out his Camerupt, which we easily took out with only one Psychic from Mechang and one Hyper Beam from Trapinch, winning us the battle. I also battled Leader Archie inside a C4 cabin, but I'm not showing that battle because it was super easy. Shortly after defeating Leader Maxie and Leader Archie, we arrive in Sotopolis City. I'm assuming it's how it's pronounced, I'm not quite sure. I guess you guys will let me know in the comments. Shortly after arriving in Sotopolis City, I realized I wasn't meant to be there and I headed to Sky Pillar. And then I just missed Rayquaza, which is unfortunate. Shortly after arriving back at Sotopolis City, I get a 1.5-minute long cutscene, but lucky for you I've sped it up by 4 times to make it easier to watch. Enjoy. Just to fill out the extra time in this cutscene, why don't I ask you guys a question? What's your favorite legendary Pokemon? Leave that in the comments below. And you know what that means, it's time for us to battle the 8th gym leader, Hoenn, and his water type Pokemon. To start off, Hoenn sends out his Love Disc, which, spoiler alert, I one-shot with Crunch, because it's super weak. Next up, Hoenn sends out his Whiscash, which is a water ground type Pokemon. I took it out with one critical Hyper Beam. Next up, Hoenn sent out his Celio, which unfortunately hit me with one Aurora Beam, which did a decent amount of damage, but luckily I managed to take it out in one dig. Next up, he sends out Crawdon, which almost one-shot me with Crab Hammer, and I took it out in one crunch and one dig. Last up, he sends out his Kingdra, which unfortunately outspeeds me and one-shots me with Water Pulse. After reattempting this fight about a dozen times, I managed to get back up to Kingdra, but this time I have about 3/4 of my health instead of a slither of health, and I managed to take it out with one Hyper Beam. After defeating the last gym, it's time for us to finally have our epic battle with Rayquaza. On my first turn against Rayquaza, I throw out my Master Ball and catch it first try. What an epic battle. Leave a like if you thought that battle was epic. And after defeating Rayquaza, it's time for our final battle with Wally. To start off the battle, Wally sent out his Altaria. Long story short, I two-shot his Altaria with Crunch. Next up is his Roselia, which goes down to only one dig. To follow up, he sends out Delcatty, which also goes down to only one dig. Next up is his Magneton, which also goes down to only one dig. Last but not least, the piece de resistance, Gardevoir. Honestly, this last battle against Wally was too easy, because his Gardevoir goes down in one Hyper Beam, winning me the battle. After defeating Wally, it's finally time for us to take on the Elite Four. First up is Elite Four member, Sydney. To start off, Sydney sends out Mightyena, which uses Sand Attack, which throws off my accuracy from the start of the fight. Unfortunately, him using Sand Attack does make me miss a few times, so I take a lot of unnecessary damage, but I do manage to take out Mightyena with one dig. Next up, he sends out his Crawdon to take out in one dig and one crunch. Next up, he sends out his Cacturne. Unfortunately, I get really unlucky against Cacturne because of the Sand Attack I got earlier. I kept missing and not doing enough damage to take it out. And then, unfortunately, even though I beat it, then the damage was done. After defeating Cacturne, he sends out the Pokemon that I was most scared of on his team, Shiftry. And unfortunately, because Cacturne had done so much damage, I get taken out easily with one extra Century. I guess it's time to retry this. After a few more attempts, I managed to get a run where I don't get Sand Attack and don't drop my accuracy. But this time, instead of him sending out his Shiftry first, he sends out Absol after I beat Cacturne. I easily one-shot Absol with Dig like I did every other one of his Pokemon without getting Sand Attacked. But next up is the Pokemon that killed me last time, Shiftry. Now unfortunately his Shiftry goes to Double Team to increase its evasiveness so that I miss more often. Now to make matters worse, he uses Swagger, which confuses me. But for some reason I get so unbelievably lucky and break out of confusion on the first try and hit him with Dig to win the battle. And that means one Elite Four member down. Next up is Elite Four member Phoebe. To start off, Phoebe sends out one of her Dusclops, which I one-shot with Crunch. Now this was a pretty good start, so I was pretty confident this would be an easy Elite Four member. Damn, was I wrong. So next up, Phoebe sent out her next Dusclops, and I almost one-shot it, so I was really confident. And then the most unluckiest thing in the world happened. Next up, her Dusclops uses Ice Beam, which freezes me, which is a 10% chance of happening. Now that wasn't too bad, but what happens next is worse. Now if being frozen wasn't bad enough, I was frozen for 5 turns, which means I didn't even get another attack into the rest of this battle. Now it's obvious that I lose this battle, but I want to explain something to you guys. So the chance of being unfrozen each turn is 20%. So I rolled that 20% chance 5 turns in a row, and I came up empty-handed. That sucks. Well, it's time for another try. And next time around I managed to get up to a second Dusclops again. This time its Ice Beam doesn't freeze me, and as you would expect, I easily take it out with a few crunches. Next up she sends out her Bayonet, which I easily take out with one crunch. The next Pokemon she sends out is her Sableye, which I also take it out in one shot, but this time I use Dig to take it out. Next up, she sends out her second bayonet, which I also take out in one dig, winning me the battle, taking out the second Elite Four member. Next up is Elite Four member Glacier. Now first up, she sends out her Celio, which is a bit of an annoyance because I keep hitting it with Dig, but it keeps healing up with potions, but eventually I do manage to take it out after like 4 or 5 digs. Next up, she sends out her Glalie, which hits me once with Ice Beam, I hit it once with Dig, and then it hits me again with Ice Beam, unfortunately taking me out. I guess it's time to try again. Now to save time, because this video has already reached the 20-minute mark, I'm going to cut to the battle where I finally actually beat Glalie. Now to beat Glalie, I had to grind all the way up to level 90, and also use Hyper Beam to take it out in one shot. Now after defeating her second Glalie, she sends out her most powerful Pokemon, Walrein. Unfortunately against Walrein I get the bad luck with the freeze again, so I decide to reset. After doing this battle a few more times, I get back up to Walrein, but this time I'm on 69 health. Nice. And because I'm so scared and I don't want to be taken out by Walrein in one shot with like Surf or something, I decide to use Hyper Beam to take it out, and it does take it out in one shot, winning me the battle and taking out the third Elite Four member. Now the problem I'm having with the Elite Four members, if you're wondering, is that my moveset is so shit, and I can't use TMs obviously because I forbid that at the start of the run, so it's making it so much harder. If I was able to use TMs, this would be a much easier run. Next up is the final Elite Four member, Drake, and no, not the rapper. So first up he sends out his Shellgun, which is just an annoying little bugger and keeps using Protect, but after a few digs I do manage to take it out. Next up is his Kingdra, which unfortunately easily takes me out with only 2 certs, which means I have to try this battle again. Now before trying this again, I grind up all the way to level 95. This time around I managed to get up to his last Pokemon, Salamence. Unfortunately my Hyper Beam doesn't manage to take it out, but he takes me out with 2 Dragon Claws, which means I have to try this battle again. Now after resetting his fight a few more times, I managed to finally get up to Salamence with a decent amount of health. Unfortunately my first Hyper Beam doesn't take Salamence out, and he hits me with a Dragon Claw, but I somehow survive it and take him out with my second Hyper Beam, winning the battle and defeating the Elite Four. Now with the Elite Four defeated, it means it's time for the champion. So this video is already really long, so to cut it down for you guys, I'm going to explain something to you. So I couldn't be the champion at this level. Not even at level 100. Spoiler. I tried it a bunch of times, couldn't even get past this first Whale Lord. So I gave up on that. And I decided that I was going to use TMs and see if I could beat him. And here we are. So enjoy. Now the TMs I taught him were Earthquake and Rock Tomb. Now this is my first attempt against the Elite Four champion with TMs. Now first out he sends out his Whale Lord. Now before I was using TMs I wasn't even able to do half damage to his Whale Lord. But now I one-shot it with Earthquake. It's like night and day difference. I also somehow one-shot his Wish Cache with Earthquake as well. Next up he sends out his Milotic, which I also take out in one Earthquake. But unfortunately he sends out his Ludicolo, which takes me out in one Giga Drain because I'm so weak. Now after an ungodly amount of resets, I managed to get past his Ludicolo and get up to his final Pokemon, Gyarados. To start the battle against Gyarados, I hit it with a Rock Tomb, which does over half its health, which is kinda surprising. I proceed to hit it with the second Rock Tomb, taking it out, winning the battle against the champion, and defeating the Hoenn region with only a Trapinch, which means it's time for us to enter ourselves into the Hall of Fame. But somehow we have managed to beat Pokemon Emerald with only a Trapinch. Unfortunately we were unable to beat it without using TMs, but honestly I thought we would have started using TMs a lot sooner, because this game is rather difficult. But somehow we did it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, in the bottom left corner there will be a picture you can click on to subscribe, or if you like these kind of videos, in the bottom right there will be a another video like this, another challenge video that you can click on if you want to keep watching more of these videos. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.